Lesson 5.9, we're going to look at the quadratic formula, a wonderful way to solve any quadratic equation. And as a bit of review, look at the top of the page. A quadratic equation is of the form ax squared plus bx plus c equals 0. What we've done this unit is we have factored equations like this and solved. We have solved by taking square roots, but that's not always an option. The quadratic formula is foolproof. It's always going to give us a solution. But first we have to get practice finding out what a, b, and c are. Look at this first problem, 2x squared plus, really this is a 1x minus 7. A is 1. I'm sorry, a is 2, so sorry. B is 1, and c is negative 7. Come over here. We've got a problem. We don't have 0. We could subtract a 3 from both sides. We'd have 10x squared minus 5x minus 3 equals 0. So our a is 10, our b is negative 5, our c is negative 3. For this last one, we'd have to move 2 terms. By the way, when you switch sides, you change signs. Of course, I could subtract an 8x from both sides. I could add a 4. The end result would be 3x squared minus 8x plus 4. We'd have an a of 3, b of negative 8, a c of 4. Well, remember, a, b, and c are just real numbers here. And if you would like to find the solution to a quadratic equation, maybe it's not going to be factorable, maybe you can't take square roots. Regardless, even if you cannot do these things, the quadratic formula will always lead you to the correct answer. Let's do just a few quick problems. For number 1, let's first list our a. A is 1, b would be 3, c would be negative 5. All I'm going to do is I'm going to go back to the quadratic formula, and I'm going to substitute these values in for a, b, and c. And once we simplify, we will have our solutions. So opposite b, we'll have up on top a negative 3 plus or minus the square root of, well, b squared, we'll have a 3 squared minus 4 times 1 times negative 5. Down below, we'll have 2 times 1. Continuing on, we will have x equals negative 3 plus or minus. Now you could let your calculator do all of the work simplifying, or you could go step by step. Either way is fine. 3 squared is 9. Negative 4 times 1 times negative 5 is a plus 20. And then down here we have 2. Wrapping it up, we'd have x equals negative 3 plus or minus the square root of 29 divided by 2. Now, of course, these answers, both of them, the plus and the minus, are in simplified form. We can't reduce our radical any. This is as far as we go. Let's take a look at number 2. First things first, we'd have to add a 9. We'd have x squared minus 6x plus 9 equals 0. You might wonder what our a, b, c would be. Our a would be a 1, b would be negative 6, c would be 9. And again, going back to the quadratic formula, you need to have this memorized. Of course, we're going to be reviewing this for a good week before we take our test. And in that time, we hope that we'll have all of this memorized as we practice. But fill in. Look, we're going to have negative 6 plugged in for this b. Inside this radical, we'll have negative 6 squared minus 4 times a 1 times a 9. Underneath, we'll have 2 times 1. Now, if we're really on our toes, we're going to notice that the negative 6 is a 6. negative 6 squared is positive 36. 4 times 1 times 9 is a 36 also. This is going to look kind of funny. Look inside that square root. 36 minus 36 is going to get us 0. We're going to have 6 plus or minus the square root of 0. And what is the square root of 0? Well, the square root of 0 is 0 itself. So you'd have 6 plus or minus 0. And 6 plus or minus 0 is just a 6. We have the answer, x equals 3. Now, by the way, if you were really on your toes, you would have looked at this equation right here. You would have said, wait a minute, this factors. Now, of course, what you can see very quickly, we know that we'd have to multiply to a 9. We'd have to add to a negative 6. You might try a negative 3 and a negative 3. This is going to work. This is going to factor. And if we were to set these factors equal to 0, sure enough, this is the answer we would get. Factoring is a fast way to solve. The quadratic, though, will work whether your equation would factor or not. Okay, one more of this type. Let's take a look at number 3. We'd have a is equal to 1, b is equal to 2, c is equal to 2. And here we go again with the quadratic formula. We'd have opposite b plus or minus the square root of b squared minus 4ac all over 2a. And we just have to plug these values in. Very formula-driven lesson. I'm sure you've picked that up. Over and over again, we're just doing the same basic steps. We find a, b, and c. We plug those numbers in, and then we break things down. Take a look at this problem, though, something different. 2 squared is 4. 4 times 1 times 2 is 8. I think you can see something is different. 4 minus 8 is negative 4. Now, when we have a negative inside of a root, what we've been doing is taking out an I. And what's the square root of 4? Well, that's just a 2, so this is a 2i. And then we could even simplify a little bit. We could separate this into 2 distinct fractions. Final answer would be negative 1 plus or minus an I. That's the 2 complex solutions that we'd wind up with. And we're going to stop right here. We're going to pick up the second part of this lesson in the next video. That's something called the discriminant. But this is what we did in class as well. We actually just wrapped up the quadratic formula and decided to come back on the discriminant, this latter part of the lesson, the very next class. So hope this is going well for you. Good luck.